Now that students are back in school and we've settled into a new routine, Season 2 of our podcast will focus on academics, growth, and planning, and the inner workings of the district. Join us as we publish new episodes to break down all the ways we provide a quality educational experience for our students and staff. I'm Andrew Kim, Superintendent of Schools for the Comal Independent School District and host of Comal ISD Radio. Joining me today, once again, is our Executive Director for Communication, Steve Stanford, our two Assistant Superintendents for Elementary and Secondary Education, Krista Moffat, and Corbee Wunderlich. Today, we're going to be talking about this notion of IDO Cycle 2. So October the 9th was a deadline for parents to commit to the next grading cycle, whether or not they would like their students to be in remote learners or on-campus learners. And throughout the state of Texas, what we have noticed and witnessed is that many school districts, smaller school districts, are deciding to cancel their remote learning opportunities, largely because they have a small percentages of numbers of kids in remote learning. And first and foremost, I want to go ahead and dampen the rumors perhaps out there. We are not planning to cancel any remote learning. We will provide that continuously as long as we can to our students' needs, considering health concerns at home. But to that, let's talk about where we are. So, Mr. Stanford, I know you're necessarily not in charge of the numbers, but can you tell us where we are in those numbers and where we are going into the second grading portion of the grading period of the semester?
Yeah, we had really good feedback and turnout on our IDO selection. And right now we're looking right close to 3,500 students coming back on campus.
Is that what, percentage-wise? What are we looking at total now then?
Oh, I think that's, I haven't done the math on that, but we were at 60% prior. So we're probably getting close to 65, 70%.
I think last time I checked, it was actually 75%.
75%. All right, I'm not the math guy, so, I'm not a good
I already know these answers to my own questions,
there
I guess.
You go.
But anyway, so 75, I think I saw 75. It's actually like 76 and 24%, to be exact, right now, in terms of numbers coming back. Is that surprising to you in some sense or not?
Not really, because if you've just the conversations we've had over the last 6-8 weeks, we've just been hearing from parents who are wanting to get their kids back on campus. I think they've seen a lot from just the way we've managed the process of having kids on campus and the things that we have in place. And I know they've been talking to their neighbors and their friends, and I think they feel comfortable with what Joe McKenna and his team have been doing as far as creating a safe and healthy environment for our kids. And I think they have confidence to bring their kids back.
Well, and I would like to once again thank all of our principals and our teachers and custodial staff, child nutrition department, and everybody involved here as support services to help on that regard. But interestingly, you said about process, because I think that's going to be a sort of the main question here. More kids on campus means potentially issues related to taking care of these processes. So from an elementary perspective, Krista, what's the word out there among elementary principals in regards to, hey, a lot more kids, so what are we going to do about this situation?
So we did have to have some conversations about resetting for this next grading period and going back and looking at our processes and how they may be impacted by the increase in numbers. We've been very fortunate that the principals have been getting daily updates on who's coming back, and that has helped them to start customizing their plans to fit their needs on their campus. So they've looked at things such as the cafeteria, the hallways, drop-off, pickup procedures, how many students in the classroom, how will we have small groups within the classroom for instructional purposes, and they have had some time to really plan on it. And we're continuing to work through those details one campus at a time by going through those operational systems on each campus.
Yeah. And to that, we sure will appreciate support from our parents to really car ridership, to take their kids back and forth, because we may not have enough. We will take enough kids in the buses if we have to, but certainly in social distance, it's going to be very difficult. What's the perspective among principals elementary-wise about this notion of social distancing now?
So we do know we have protocols in place, but there may be times when the number of students and the space become an issue. So we are going to do our very best to keep space between our students, but we realize there will be times where students will be within 6 feet of each other just due to the sheer number of students on campuses. We have some that are right around the 80% back, some even over that. So when you see that, our buildings didn't get larger, and then we still have some really high numbers of students that will be on campus. So there will be times where that will be more difficult, eating in the cafeteria. We have some lunches. We've talked about having one class per grade level that may have to eat in their classroom instead of in the cafeteria. We have some campuses who've added some picnic tables on the outside of the schools to accommodate the numbers coming back. They've looked at it very creatively, but each one's a little different. But we do want parents to know that there will be times we won't always be able to keep as much space as we've had with more students returning.
Yeah, and probably the reality is that we're going to have to really reinforce the face covering, the mask, as a great determinant of the situation. And we did also purchase and distributed out some additional these sort of plexiglass barriers. So hopefully our principals are utilizing those, implementing those. But really the mask is something we're going to have to reinforce quite a bit.
Yes, and those the dividers, we sent those out last week to the elementary campuses, especially those primary grades where we want to be pulling those students into small group for instructional purposes. It just adds another level of safety to have those on their small group tables for those students to be able to access their teachers, but also feel safe while still wearing a mask, because with more kids in the classroom, the mask is going to be essential.
Yeah, and elementary kids is one thing, but secondary kids, they're more independent. So what's the consensus thinking around secondary principals, middle school and high school principals around this issue of more kids coming back?
Well, one thing I'll commend our high school principals specifically on is they plan, in our middle schools to that as well, plan for this. In their initial planning, they plan for the day when more kids will be coming back on campus. So they built their system, whether it be adding additional lunch periods or how they scheduled their sections to make sure that they had room for students as they returned to campus. So some of that planning was pre-done. I think the big thing, too, will continue to be the adherence to the protocols that we put in place. Our students have done an absolutely wonderful job of maintaining their social distancing and wearing masks. And some of the fears that we had going into this as a school district about students adhering to those guidelines, they've done a phenomenal job with that. We'll want to continue to reinforce the wearing of the mask. As Ms. Moffat said, there are going to be times where social distancing just is not allowable. And we're going to do the best we can with regards to maintaining mask wearing, continuing to make sure we keep up our safety protocols with cleaning and things of that nature to make sure our students are safe and remain on campus.
And I just want to just once again reiterate the fact that students who are coming back from remote learning to on campus, they will physically come back on the 21st of October. But the grading period actually begins on the 19th. Now, can somebody explain to me or to our audience why there's a 2-day delay of that situation? And it really is driven by the secondary report carding issue, I think, right?
Yes, sir. Although the grading period ends on October the 16th, grade finalization happens the following week. UIL actually allows for a 7-day grace period to quote unquote clean up grades, to allow for students to for example, if a teacher gives a test on Friday, it's unrealistic for that test to be graded and input in the computer by Friday afternoon at 4:30. So UIL allows for students to have several days, up to 7 days, for grades to be cleaned up. We pull grades officially the following week. So if the 9 weeks ends on the 16th, we don't pull grades until the following week, which creates an issue. If we try to change student schedules while we're pulling grades, we end up with issues with classes or grades not transferring to the report card, and it could potentially affect rank and GPA. So it's best to not alter a student's schedule while we're pulling student grades at that time.
It's interesting. The pandemic has literally lifted the roof of the car. So we now all get to see how the engine works, or I'm trying to understand how the engine works, right? Because it used to be like we had a pretty covered rooftop where hood where we don't have to see the mess. But now we're all seeing it, recognizing it, and so forth and so on. And in some sense, giving us a pause to really think about how school processes really work or not work, and for the benefit of our kids. So I think in many ways it's a good thing that we're having this opportunity, but it's obviously a very tragic, horrible situation that we're all dealing with. And but we are ready to go, sounds like. Has anything been brought up as a need right now by principals in terms of, hey, I need more stuff. I need more things to make this thing work here?
our main thing has just been making sure our classrooms are ready, as some teachers have been switching due to the numbers. They were more remote students. So some of those teachers in sections that were purely remote are now coming on campus. So they're doing some work to make sure their rooms look ready, just like the first day of school would have been when these new classes are made and the students come back. So that's where they're putting their time right now, is logistics, as well as really welcoming those kids back and what can we do to have a smooth transition. Because as you said, there's that couple of day gap right there before the 21st. But throughout that week, we want to really orientate our students to the systems on the campus and the culture, because some of these students have never stepped foot on that campus, especially our kindergartners and our sixth graders and our freshmen. So we have done some work with our principals to really think about those groups.
Yeah, it's essentially a first day school year for many students who are coming back.
Many of our middle school classes at many of our middle schools were set up with remote and on-campus sections only. So some of our middle school teachers will now be in the situation of facilitating combo classes.
Both.
So yes, sir. So they'll both have both on-campus and remote students in the same classrooms. That's happened at some middle schools, but not all middle schools. So those campuses, like Ms. Moffat said, are also thinking about and working with their teachers over the last week, our professional development day on Monday, to begin training and helping our teachers become better at facilitating those remote or combo classes.
And that really is a challenge, actually. And, something we're going to have to probably spend another podcast time on to talk about. Because, obviously we have a majority of our students coming back on campus, but we can't neglect the fact that we still have students who are remote learners, and we want to keep on doing that well. I'll admit, I think our struggle is trying to do both at the same time, meaning kids who are live or on campus with us and remote, trying to traverse these two for a teacher without proper amount of time that we've had, unfortunately, to train up. And of course, we got to think about available technologies, issues at home life, that really having some issues with that. So that's a challenge to us. And we're still, once again, trying to keep working on this. And I know that we really do appreciate those parents who are able to provide that additional support at home, because essentially we're having them do some of our substitute teaching for us at home with their students. And so that's a key factor right now that we're recognizing. So, Mr. Stanford, when we think about the next semester going out, because we got Thanksgiving break coming up, and we also have a Christmas break that we're all looking forward to. Any predictions and thoughts in terms of what we're looking at in terms of IDO cycle process for the next semester by any chance?
Well, we will be looking at that. We got that coming up. The new grading period will start when we return in January. So we'll start looking at kind of the timeline, because we want to give, again, we asked parents to do this and let us know a couple of weeks prior, to give our campuses ample time to see, make the changes and see who's coming back. So I think we're going to have to look at that probably, I'm thinking, sometime around between maybe Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah, it was seen to me, now thinking about it, right after Thanksgiving just about.
Yeah, I think so, to let parents get the opportunity to let us know, so we can make change. Because when we come back in January,
we have to go right into it.
We'll have to go right into it. So time's moving quickly.
Yeah, it really is. And I just, I almost had a little moment of panic right now, to be quite honest with you. So,
yeah.
But this is the nature of the job right now, this school year. So, but I'm actually looking forward to the start of the 2021 school year, to be quite honest. But with that, you've been listening to the Comal Independent School District Radio. Join us next time as we talk more about remote learning, safety and security procedures, as well as some UIL extracurricular work that's going to be coming forward. So we'll be talking to you more about that. Once again, thanks for listening.